Hello, friends. Welcome back to another edition of the PCS Podcast, the Pokemon podcast built by the community for the community. I'm one of your co hosts, Aaron, and I'm joined once again, as always, by my good friend and co host, Michael. On today's episode, we're going to cover favorite cards from the Surging Sparks set release that comes out November 8th. Also, we're going to cover some very underappreciated or forgotten cards that you might want to double check your old bulk box to make sure that you do have a playset of those. And then finally, we'll update everyone on our PCS tournament challenge and reveal our next challenge because we are in the top four, closing out season 4 of our unique TCG challenges. I'm really excited to announce that at the end, so we'll have to kind of get through this. But Michael, I know you've been a very busy man, but hopefully maybe things have calmed down a little bit for you this past week.
Yeah, man. Life has been very busy, not a bad way. Lots of good family time. I think I posted about it on my Twitter. I haven't even been posting on Twitter a ton. Just lots of good family time between sports and travels and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, still not a whole lot of poke happening. I don't know how I made it into the finals for our challenge because I forfeited the last two rounds because I felt so bad. So hey, I take it. At least I won the first two, I suppose. So I'm actually gonna make a point to play this week. So I can't go down with the fight after lucking
Yeah, you
in.
gotta
I bubbled
you
in,
gotta
so
do the
hey,
pod justice. Yeah,
that's
you
right.
gotta do the pod justice.
The bubble
We
went in
gotta
my
get it.
favor there, I suppose you
Yeah,
could
there
say.
was quite a few 2-2s, but
Yeah,
yeah, you just were just a step ahead of everyone else
I,
there. So
we take that.
yeah,
But yeah, no, good stuff though. Graham is in between football seasons. We were just talking about this prior and pre-pod. So we're kind of in the middle of like we had 5 days straight of football practice and games and stuff like that too. He's playing flag football,
well,
so he's very much in football mindset right now too. I think partially why I haven't been playing as much Pokemon is he's more interested in football right now, and I've always been a big proponent is I'm never going to force my kid to do something he doesn't want to do. And as much as it kills me, but I'm also like super stoked he wants to play football because both football and Pokemon have played such big roles in my life too. So a lot of times in our free time, we're out throwing the football around, practicing his routes and plays and things like that too. So it's pretty cool, even still. But that said, again, because he's not as interested, I'm not playing as much right now, which is fine. So, and then of course, when locals are happening, he's got football games and practice and stuff like that too. So not a whole lot of that. But yeah, overall, still really good. I think I shared, I don't know, a month ago now almost that I had started a challenge. Something I did way back in like 2022 to kind of like revitalize my fitness and health. Where in the month of October, I ran 31 days straight. Started that again, and I just finished day 28 today, which is pretty
dang.
sweet. So 28 days straight of running. Nothing like earth shattering mileage wise, but I'm averaging like 15 to 20 miles a week, which is cool to see and seeing that come back up. And I'm feeling a lot better too. So, yeah, I think I've not been playing as much poke, but I've been able to kind of like focus on other aspects of life again. And it's been really good. I feel revitalized in a lot of ways. So not that Pokemon was like bringing me down or anything like that, but it's cool to kind of like take a break and kind of, work on yourself in other aspects of life too. So, all things are good, man. How about yourself? I know you've got an exciting weekend ahead, but I'll let you share about that and other things.
Yeah, nothing too crazy this past week. I actually did not open up TCG Live till Sunday and played. It's one of those where kind of popped off as Drago, did a Kirim play and conceded, and then because it was versus Charizard and like I knew better, but I would never probably make that Kirim play just because the rest of my hand was kind of garbage, and I had to use my V Star in order to pull it off. So normally I would never have gone for that, but it's on live and I
Right.
don't care. And then like was like, all right, like I'll play like Charizard, and then kind of was able to do the thing, and then opponent just didn't even quit or concede. They just, so that it was annoying because you have to wait for their time to go, and then it passes back to you. You're like, well, that's kind of weird, and then you do it again, and then it goes. It's yeah, not my favorite client, that's for sure. But I've been spending a lot of time this past week just working with physical decks.
Nice.
was just getting a lot of GLC decks kind of tweaked because it's kind of nice where I do like the change of pace. And I know like Jeremy had kind of put in like he's just stuck in this format because it's so
Right.
widespread and he's just nothing's going through. And that's I kind of said well like that's when I did like a 3 week run of mill, which I still had that deck queued up at live kind of at all times, waiting in the rings. But I like to also I should have responded as like this is kind of the time to like look at GLC stuff. It
Right.
is fun because most of the sets like you just need 1 to 2 cards to kind of update,
Yeah.
so it's not like you have to widespread create an entire deck. There's so many good archetypes within GLC, but Dragon is starting to become kind of the new hot one just because we're able to get a little bit more basic attackers. Like with the last set we
That
got
Raging
the
Bolt.
yeah, the Raging Bolt
Yeah.
that we talked about in our set
Yep.
review, and like so now you can play that with a Koraidon, or that Koraidon, not the new Koraidon that
Right.
comes out. We'll talk
Right.
about a little bit later, but and then you're able to play Sada, which is like Dragon's biggest thing is because it plays these weird energy types. Like you just kind of have to string together your attackers. So I was starting to get pieces put together there. Use Cardboard Warriors, so that's cardboardwarriors.net is a free plug. That's what I've always told people is like this is how I kind of started to get into GLC besides watching a home play, of course, and reading through the Gym Leader Challenge. So I've been working and tweaking on that because next week we go on one last vacation and strategically
Nice.
planned this during election week many months ago in the summertime when we were trying to like look at like gosh what would kind of be a nice week to get away, kind of one less
Yeah.
getaway, just myself and the wife, no kid, for 5 days, and we're going up to Duluth, Minnesota, which is one of our favorite places where we did our honeymoon. We won't
Nice.
go all the way. There's a resort that's literally like it's called Gunflint Lake, and it's half in Canada and half in
Oh,
Minnesota. So
cool.
we're not going that far, thankfully, because 8 hours in a car with a very pregnant wife, I don't think that'd go over well. But Duluth's like maybe like a 4 hour tripish away, depending on, of course, the Minnesota detours is what I'll say. So yeah, kind of gearing up with that and just getting a lot of physical decks in because that is pretty cool. She is you can probably see a little bit over my shoulder. Like those are all her books, and she's got even more in this one that you guys can't see on camera, and then even more upstairs in her bedroom. So she likes to spend time and just get away and unplug, which is easy because then I crack open a bottle of wine or beer, and then I just play cards against myself. So
Hey, I take that.
excited, yeah, kind of excited to get away next week, but obviously gotta trudge through this week together. So that kind of covers it for our updates.
Sweet.
I'm excited of kind of a little bit of the new set. Kind of feels like a niche set, maybe.
Yeah.
Nothing where it's like earth shattering. Like Paul Day Evolved to me was like there's just so
It was
many
so good.
cards. Yeah, so good for that. But we got Surging Sparks coming around the corner.
Yeah, Surging Sparks is set to release on the 8th of November, so we got 2 weeks left to go ish. Or, yeah, 2 weeks. Pre releases started over the weekend. I know we didn't get to any last weekend. I believe Caitlin and Graham are going to try to go to some this weekend as well. So, have fun if you're heading out to the pre releases. It does look like the pre release sets are pretty nice. But again, it's pre release format. So, it's never anything that you're gonna just be blown away by. So don't go into it expecting that. But that said, kind of where we want to take the rest of or part of tonight's episode is just kind of reviewing some of the set. We don't want to do a set review again by any means. Although I think we did skip the set based off of things that were going on in the TCG community. I think we did skip the Surging Spark set review, so it could serve as something along those lines. But we're gonna just take you through. If you're listening, we're gonna be looking through Justin Basil's selected proxies list, just to kind of look through what we think are some of the more viable cards. Maybe something you should pick up a couple of play sets of, or if it's an A spec, at least make sure you have a one of each of those.
Mm-hmm.
Some of just our favorite cards from the set too. Like you said, nothing earth shattering in this set necessarily, but some cool cards and certainly some collectible cards if you're into that sort of thing too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Pokemon is hyping it up or trying to. I think I saw that there was a Surging Sparks maze in New York City. I know they brought in some content creators. They flew them into the city over the last weekend. I think I saw JW Creewall
Oh
and
yeah, you talked about that on on their podcast.
Yep. And then Shelby Boo was also invited there too. I think it was actually her first time in New York City, which is crazy to think.
Oh,
But yeah, super cool. But anyway, so we'll jump in. We'll start with the A specs. There are a couple. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7
a
ish.
lot.
A lot.
Yeah, another
Um,
7.
yeah.
Only a couple good ones, I'd say.
Yeah. And we'll start in alphabetical. Yeah, I think it's alphabetical order. So we'll start with the Amulet of Hope. So if you're looking, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Spotify, you'll see it. But if not, we're starting with the Amulet of Hope. The A spec text says if the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage. That's an important thing for damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon. You may search your deck for up to 3 cards and put them into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. I mean, it's cool, but like when I look at this, do I want to take up a spec space for a card that's gonna help me draw 3, where I have plenty of options to draw, or even we've got
Specifically, find 3 cards because it doesn't say
right,
draw, right? Yeah, search your
yeah,
deck. So
fine.
it's
You may
literally
search your deck.
Radiant. It's Radiant Jirachi.
Yep,
Radiant Jirachi. It has literally like the same text on the card.
right.
If it's knocked
Pretty,
out, we saw Tord actually played in one of his control lists, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I did see a meme. I don't know if it was Chip Ritchie or someone else, or maybe it was just even someone from Japan or something like that. And then they did that Radiant Jirachi plus this. Go look at find any 6 cards in
Any
your deck
6
that you
cards you
want,
want.
which was just pretty wild.
Yeah, maybe that could be the cover. This is Radiant Jirachi wearing the Amulet of Hope.
Oh, that'd be pretty
That's
sick.
funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. We'll see if I can make that happen in the time after theirs. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. When I think of cards that allow me to draw whatever cards I want, like if I'm playing an A spec and I can draw a card, like I'm gonna be more inclined to probably put Secret Box in, or
Right.
obviously there's some niche cases here, and maybe we'll see it, but I don't know. I think it's just gonna be one of those A specs that kind of fall off into oblivion somewhere, um, as we've seen with quite a few in the past. The next one, though, that I don't think we'll see as often, but perhaps a little bit more viable. I know you were chatting about this being a
Yeah.
potential addition to your favorite deck, to Reggie Drago. The Brilliant Blender says search your deck for up to 5 cards and discard them, then shuffle your deck. So I know when we first chatted about these A specs, I know we didn't do a set review, but when we first chatted about some of these card reveals, this was one that was kind of cool. And I was like, oh, maybe, as a Lugia stan that I am, I was like, maybe this could be a Lugia, to go in the Lugia deck. And I think this was actually before Squawkabilly and before I realized how consistent the
Oh, sure.
Squawkabillion
Yeah.
was. Because this came out, we knew about this card quite a while back. Um,
Yeah.
I think even before Worlds. I don't remember, but it's been around for a
Around
while.
Worlds time is when I want to feel like, yeah, maybe
Yeah,
just before Worlds or something.
something like that. Yeah. But the more I thought about it, and the more I've thought about it since looking at it now, since Surging Force is about to come out, I'm not gonna want to trade Legacy energy out. Like that's just too good. That's what makes Lugia is just awesome in and of itself. It doesn't need Legacy energy to be great, but Legacy energy certainly helps. So I don't suspect you'll see any Lugia decks seriously taking that out. Maybe you'll see a couple on the ladder on PTCG Live messing around with it or something, but I don't know. I don't see it there. Perhaps in Drago. Aaron, you want to chat about that? You think this could be something you choose over other A specs, or obviously the one that goes in the
Yeah.
prime catcher?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just is. If you take out Prime Catcher out of the equation for A specs, I feel like we do have just so many like good A specs, which is what they should be, right? As a one of in card, we also have some duds, but like Prime Catcher still being like $25. I can't wait till that Charizard EX and Pidgeot EX
Yes.
battle deck comes out next month.
Yep.
I think that's November. So
Yep.
finally, maybe your Prime Catch, like when I grab an energy card and write down Prime Catcher on it because I don't want to constantly change it in and out. But
Right.
speaking of Brilliant Blender, obviously like Battle Compressor, I know Stefan Ivanov always
Yeah.
has a like expanded deck of the week that he goes through, and Reggie Drago's like one of the first ones he talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you're playing for Battle Compressor to search your deck up to 3 cards, discard them, so then obviously you get your
Right.
discard or your attackers in. I thought with this, I probably doesn't replace Prime Catcher to be brutally honest, but like I can see it where maybe having a little bit more item search. I don't know if it would require you to play the 4 research anymore because maybe you can get like I said, I've been playing 3 Iono that I really like, but maybe you can even get a couple Arvin in there. because really you just need this um,
Yeah.
and put in all your attackers in the discard, and then you don't have to do that legacy star so early.
Hmm.
But obviously, Arvin is also not drawn 7 cards, so
Right. Right.
I will test it in Drago. Some other things I was thinking, but I just feel like Secret Box is so much better in Ancient Box. Right?
Yeah.
You're just being able
Exactly.
to push those United Wings, type of those things, and even like some decks, like even like I mean, Prime Catcher is just so good in Chen Pao, but like I was
Right.
even thinking like that, right? Because you kind of want energy in your discard pile because then you can get all of it back with your
Right.
superior energy retrievals. But a, a unique card, I think this is definitely like a one of. I don't feel like
Absolutely.
you have to have it immediately in there, but it's one of those. It probably like what we saw with what was like Neo Upper Energy was like
Yeah.
$2 or $3,
Yeah. It'll be
a
one of
couple weeks
those.
after. But just
Yeah.
a unique text on the card, just being able to do that, I think it is able, and maybe there's some card reveals, coming out in future
Perhaps. Yeah.
sets that
Yeah.
this then becomes like, okay, this is a little bit more of a meta call for a certain deck archetype.
Well, and I think we'll get to it later too, but there are some newer EXs coming out too where you can accelerate energy from the discard pile. So like perhaps
Yeah.
this does see some viability with newer archetypes that might come to fruition over the course of the next several set releases and as rotation hits and things like that too. So I don't know. I'm not writing it off, and I think with the energy acceleration, that's a note that I had in our show notes for today is like energy
Oh yeah.
acceleration seems to be everywhere with this set. Like there's so many cards that either you're pulling from your hand or from your discard pile or from the deck, and it's cool. I like it. So again, I think having things in the discard pile can be pretty handy. So, but yeah, so that's that one. Speaking of searching for things, we can go to the Energy Search Pro. The text on this says search your deck for any number of basic energy cards of different types, reveal them, and put them into your hand and shuffle your deck too. So, um, yeah, again, I think this goes hand in hand with kind of where Pokemon seems to be going with a couple of different things. One, the Terra type, Pokemon, the Stellar type Pokemon, where you have multiple energy types that you need to be able to use as an attack. So if you can bring things to your hand and then you can accelerate from your hand to whichever Pokemon, like, because again, you see some of these Pokemon coming to support energy acceleration. This could be a good opportunity to be able to use some of this more broken attacks from some of these more stellar type Pokemon. So I don't know, I think it's cool, and I think we've seen this too. Perhaps I can't remember correctly. It's been in some Goldengo list or
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That was one of the tweets I put out on the PCS
Mm-hmm.
Twitter account or X account.
Yeah.
Was just seeing a little bit in Golden Go, which
Mm-hmm.
makes sense, and it's cool because then like whatever hollow rares, or if you have but some gold energies of each type,
Right.
you can literally play every single energy type, and then you
And
play
make it rain.
four. Yeah, you make four metal energy as yours. The cool thing that I liked in there is in those lists specifically, they dropped the Palkia V and V Star line, which you'd
Right.
think that seems manding, right? Because you can get a Greninja playoff. But hint, hint, there might be a card coming up later. You can play the Scissor from A City in Flames
Yep.
that does 50 more. It does 10 base damage and then 50 more for each ability and play by your Pokemon.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
so it's kind of gives you a good one prize attack besides having to sell yourself on that Radiant Greninja play with Palkia V, which is also 2-star liability
Yeah.
on the bench.
Yeah, I think the Scizor actually. I remember when Goldengo first came out. I had the Scizor version of
Yeah.
it that I played a ton of, and I really thought it was really great because abilities are everywhere, and so you're able
Oh,
to
yeah. Yeah.
swing big with that. So, yep, cool card. I think this is one of the better aspects from the set. I think it will see some play for sure.
The
Um,
nice thing is it's probably not going to cost much more than,
that's right.
with all of these, unless you're super, itching to get all the new cards in your set.
Yeah.
Like I always kind of like giving that a 2 week to 3 week breathing space on TCG Player, and then being like, okay, go through. And I
Yeah.
know Josh within our Discord,
Mm-hmm.
he's always openly said people are just looking for stuff that obviously isn't like ultra rares or anything. He's always willing to help out. I know
Yeah.
saved me before NAIC, because I needed prime catcher, I needed a whole
Yeah.
bunch of stuff, and he was able to drive over and get hooked up.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that one pretty cool. Just literally can get every single type of energy, which I just thought it was cool when I saw the
Yeah.
golden gold list. I was like, oh my god, this is playing literally
Mhm.
every energy type in the
That's
game
right.
right now, which is really
That's
cool.
right. Makes sense. Um, the one that I wish we could skip over because I think it's just mega cope, and I also think it's mega not fun, and I think it's mega hate against Lugia is the Megaton Blower. This stupid card says discard all. Sorry, this card is not stupid, but it's annoying. It's called Megaton Blower. It says discard all Pokemon tool cards and special energy attached to each of your opponent's Pokemon, and discard any stadium card in play. AKA, when I read this, I just think of this fan spewing out, I hate Lugia, I hate Lugia, I hate Lugia. Um, I don't think it's going to be something we see in a ton of decks. Maybe a control deck, especially Snorlax Stall, that doesn't do so great against Lugia. This is just another way to really hurt Lugia players. Perhaps the Lugia players got to be a little bit more aggressive. They discard a bunch of energies, and then all of a sudden they just slam this Megaton Blower out, and you get rid of everything, and your opponent can no longer attack after that. And it could be one of those funny things too, where maybe I don't know. There's just a lot of ways this card could be really cheesy, which is why I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't see it getting much play or
I,
much use. I think this is one of those two. You were just saying like, wait a couple weeks and it'll be a couple bucks on TCG Player. This is going to be in bulk bins everywhere at your local stores too.
this
Like
is the
I,
worst A spec
yeah,
in the card
I,
list. Just to be
I,
brutally honest, it is not very good. Uh,
no. I can imagine collectors just ripping packs and getting like 10 of these and being so pissed
so
off.
mad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think this is by far. I mean, I get it why they have it, right?
Right.
In if you read, Jake Gearhart's impending doom of what's to come, like he firmly believes that there is going to be, unlike a legacy energy, he firmly believes there's just going to be another special energy that's like an aurora, so
Right.
Lugia is going to be even more cracked again. So he feels like with all these different cards, because like we have the, geez, what was the last set that we just got? Not Twilight Masquerade.
Stellar Crown.
Thank you. Wow. Talk
That's
about time. Talk about dad brain.
right.
With that, they printed out like one of those grass rotoms, like
Yeah,
lawn
Mo
rotom,
Rotom.
and it
Yeah.
literally it's like the same. It's for a
Mm-hmm.
grass. It does the exact same thing as this card. I think it's just special energies. The only thing that I was thinking, like Megaton Blower, would be kind of cool against control, because then you get rid of the Heroscape, you get rid of Mist Energy, you get rid of, yes, thank you, Mo Rotom. 30 damage before do damage, discard all Pokemon tools and special.
Yeah.
It's basically the A spec on a one set card.
Yeah.
Uh,
They should have just renamed this Megaton Blower Rotom.
yeah, basically. And I didn't realize there's just even a colorless as well too. I was
Yeah.
thinking it was at least specifically a grass, but
Uh-huh.
hey, only one retreat cost. Not the
That's right.
worst, not the worst attack in the world.
No.
But yeah, Megaton Blower, interesting text on a card, but I feel like this is by far the worst one that we can
Agreed.
move on from.
Agreed. Then we've got Miraculous Intercom. We've seen something like this in the past. Not as cool. We only got one out of this card pile, but this one says put up to 2 supporter cards from your discard pile into your hand. Take it for whatever you want. Will it see play? Maybe. Is there better cards that you could choose on your A-Spec slot? Definitely. But, in something like Stall, I think when we talked about this in the past too, I think this could be seen in Stall decks to just continue the Stall loop or continue the loops that you have. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But again, I think it's another just okay A-Spec. I think they just kind of nerfed themselves when they printed Prime Catcher and Legacy Energy so soon in the A spec mechanics, because like what's going to compare, and who knows, maybe and then the next couple sets are just going to blow our minds with A specs. But like I said, I think they just nerfed themselves. Like we're spoiled. We got spoiled early with really really good A specs, and so now we're just like, meh, this is cool.
Yeah, I thought Miraculous Intercom, we talked about when it was revealed. I was like, this feels kind of really good in control, because now you already play a Silene, right? So
Uh-huh.
you always can get Miraculous Intercom on top of your deck, and then
Right.
get it, and then play it next turn and continue. Just basically, you never whiff a support again. You have to flip
Right.
aheads on Silene always, but I mean they play quite a few pal pads, but
Yeah.
I really thought with the aspects where they were going was a lot more like the Radiant Pokemon,
Right.
where it was just a couple each set, but like we're getting 5 to 6 to 7
Yeah.
every single set, so it
It's
just feels like
excessive.
they were flooding the market a little bit. And when you literally print the two best, for me at least, and I mean even Secret Box wasn't that part of the first set few, and it kind of
Yeah.
got
Yeah. I
hated
think so.
on, and then
Mhm.
it's really started to become a staple in quite a few different archetypes or
Yeah.
builds, I should say. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree.
Miraculous Intercom, I think it's a step above the Megaton Blower, but pretty far down there
Yeah.
in terms of ace specs.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the sake of time, we'll kind of breeze through two of the three of these. You've
Yeah,
got Precious Carrier, Scramble Switch, and Rich Energy. Precious Carrier is neat. Basically, text says search your deck for any number of basic Pokemon and put them on your bench. Keep that in mind. It is from the deck to the bench, so don't
yep.
don't go putting Pokemon on there that have something that you can't put from your hand to your bench.
Effects.
Effects,
Yeah,
right?
effects
Yeah.
of from hand to bench,
Mm-hmm.
then you get to do XYZ.
Yep.
Yeah.
So be mindful of that. Then it says obviously shuffle your deck, and then I will come back to that one. Rich energy. I mean, just another special energy that Lugia is not going to play. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides a colorless energy. However, when you attach this card from your hand to a Pokemon, draw 4 cards. I don't know of too many decks out there that are that hurting for draw power with as much as we have in the meta at this time, to where like drawing 4 cards, do we really need this? And do we want that to be our 1A spec? So I
Right.
don't know. I don't know what
I,
Pokemon's doing with this one. Um,
I think, I mean, a draw four, I mean, we all
yeah,
these supporters we would love, right? Those Averys of
yeah,
draw three and your opponent dwindles their bench
mm,
down to three, all that sort of stuff. I thought like this card would be so much better, but it's just the saturation
yeah,
of ace specs that it just gets outshined.
right,
I'll give credit to where credit's due, but the Drew Two Mini podcast, they only release every other week, and they were talking about this, and then the one guy said like this feels like a very good like control type, and a couple of them are really big Snorlax head guys.
yeah,
Um, and when they talked about this, they're like, you just attach rich energy to your Pidgeot V, and then you shuffle it back into your deck, and like you're just constantly drawing more
that's
cards. It's like
true.
it's
I didn't
better
think
than
about.
Rotom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they're like
didn't
it's
think about
better
it
than
there.
Rotom if you're able to
Okay,
kind of pare that down. And I was when they said
interesting.
that, I thought it was such a unique kind of like
Yeah,
way to play rich energy. I was like, all right, rich energy is not so bad when you are
leave it
able to
to
do
stall
that.
players to come up with something
Yeah,
mischievous
yeah.
like that.
A lot of their conversation of Surging Sparks was a lot. This is
Mm,
really good in Snorlax, or this could be played in
that's
Snorlax.
funny.
But yeah, Rich Energy, like I mean, a draw four is pretty cool.
Yeah,
You're able to get it back into your deck, obviously with Pidgeot V. It doesn't have like even with a few of the other cards, they were like, this can come back to your deck. Whereas
right.
the one neutralization zone, that stadium, because that's
Hmm.
just still one of my favorite ace specs out there that just is never played.
Right,
But of course, that one can't go back
right. Can't go back.
into your deck to get played again.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
yeah, Rich Energy again,
that's
probably
fair.
one of those. It's going to be $1.50 in a couple
Right.
weeks after the release comes out. So
Maybe I might play some Snorlax Stall again too. But good news is Lugia is still here to save the day from Stall. So,
yeah, yep,
because
trying to keep it
if they're playing this, they can't play Megaton Blower.
bingo. Yeah, and
um,
then the last one that I
yeah.
think is actually well, it's a reprint.
Mm-hmm.
They did have
Mm-hmm.
Scramble Switch back in the day. This one I'll jump just because this is another one that I feel like is good in quite a few different decks, specifically versus Snorlax Stall. So Scramble Switch, you can switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, and then you may, so you don't have to, but you may move as many energy attached to the new, or from, what's it say?
Yep.
To the old
To
active
the old
Pokemon to
active
the new.
Pokemon to the new, yeah.
Yeah, yep. So like this in Regidrago would be good, right? Where if they tried to, when Gardevoir is probably just more played, but when Counter Catcher was played everywhere, I feel like, around the NAIC times, Counter Catcher was just played a lot more. Still played, but it's just not as prevalent anymore with kind of the games lasting 3 to 4 turns max. But this feels like really good of just being like, oh, you think you're going to try to stall me out? Well, here's all my energy, and then I can attack again. I think it's good in other decks as well too. Just if you're getting stuck behind something, it's switch, and then you're also able to get an attack off too because you can move
Right.
that energy back. I
Yeah.
feel this one's one of the best ones that we've gotten from
Right.
this. I feel like it probably is just in terms of like the best one there, but in terms of overall ranking in the A specs, it's probably kind of more of like a tier 2.5 type of stuff. It's just a
Yeah.
little bit below, just a little bit off the radar and stuff, but still this
Yeah.
one would be one that I would be like, yep, this is one that you want pretty much fairly early. It's
Right.
just good in so many different things.
Yeah, no, I think I could even see play in decks that really struggle with the stalling of a control deck. Like, I mean, I think of Charizard, it always sucked to play Snorlax, and they would just gust up a Pokemon that doesn't have an energy, or a Charizard that doesn't have energies, and you can't play abilities, so like you're kind of just stuck there. You don't want to retreat it, things like that. Well, this could kind of solve that. However,
Mhm.
I don't know, but again, like, is stall really that big of a concern to where you're going to tech in this over an unfair stamp or
Yeah.
like a prime catcher? Do you really want to switch this out? I think it just depends on the way the meta shapes up. But then again,
I
Arch.
even was thinking of this kind of over the weekend or just doing some prep for this show. I even thought, again, Prime Catcher's by far the superior A spec, but it's like this kind of like in a dark build with Roaring Moon EX, or anything of that nature where sometimes I really wish because you have the dark patch, but sometimes I really wish because your Sada can only do one to
Right,
each ancient, and particularly in that deck, you need three
right,
obviously energy enabled to attack. And so like I was trying to figure out how can I get like a couple energy switch in there just so I can try to move things with dark patch to the active.
yeah,
And then when this kind of got revealed and I was looking ahead, I was like, I wonder if that maybe makes its way into like kind of a dark type deck that
yeah,
feels pretty good. uh, but yeah,
yeah,
I think this one is one of the superior A specs that we get. And I'll just say with a grain of salt, all of these A specs are not, earth shattering tier
yeah.
one. Oh my gosh, you got to have it. I just never foresee any of these being a $25 A spec. Thanks,
No,
Prime Catcher.
yeah, seriously, yeah. I don't think any of these, in my personal opinion, really get much below like a B minus tier at best. So,
Yeah,
um,
agreed.
so anyways, we can move away from the A specs now. Aaron, you want to take away the next couple of cards that we have? I think
Yes,
Arch
so we
Aladon might
wanted to
be.
touch on. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we wanted to touch on just a few of our favorite cards from this set, and one that I know Drew in particular in our Discord. He was always a lover of the Duraludon VMAX deck. That also won me a few challenges as well too. So I always felt near and dear of a Arctur fan, even though yes, I know it was very mundane, but 330 HP, Dragon type without a weakness feels good. And we have the Arch Aladon EX. So it's a stage one that I really like. It's not a stage two. It's a steel type or metal type, I should say. I always forget that they, of course, call metal in the TCG side of things. 300 HP, and it has a cool ability that you talked about earlier. Hint, hint. Has alloy build. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may attach up to 2 basic steel energy or metal energy from your discard pile to your metal Pokemon in any way you like. So it doesn't have to go to the Archaladon EX. Of course, probably would, right?
Right.
Because you're probably going to attack with it.
Yep.
But then its attack cost does cost 3 metal, so not metal colorless or anything. And it's called Metal Defender. It hits 220. Very good number, just like Duraludon VMAX.
Mhm.
And it says during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon does not have a weakness, which I thought is pretty cool in an attack. Like they have to gust around it. There's
Right.
no, of course, yes, there is the Iron Bundle play, but there's just Escape Rope has been long gone out of the
Right.
format for quite some time. It's weak to fire, obviously, but again, with that attack, you
Right.
kind of aren't.
Hmm.
And then it's got the 30 resistance to grass, and obviously almost everything has the Teal Mask Ogrepon in more of the popular decks out there. But
Yeah.
for 330, or excuse me, 300 HP in a stage one, I always thought because of the Dusknoir days, I just felt really bad where Dialga was near and dear to my heart, but you just can't play Metangs because they're 100 HP.
Right.
And so I was like, well, how? And then I reread their building. I was like, oh, this is kind of your energy acceleration.
Yep.
I have seen a few builds where they played like a Dialga V and then 2 V Star. I was like,
Mm,
okay, I kind of think you might be overcooking there a little
right.
bit, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, I appreciate the deck building because
Yep.
anytime you can throw a Dialga V Star in there, you're gonna kind of
It's a
get
win.
me to
It's
look
gonna
at
win
the
your
list.
heart.
But
Yep.
yeah, but I like very big for stage 1 EX 300 HP. I
Yeah.
think that's about as big as we have out there. Uh, Only 2 retreat costs, which I thought was
Hmm.
pretty
Not bad.
noteworthy, probably is what I'll say, not being a 3 retreat cost. And you can even play uh, the Relicanth. That talk about another card that's kind of forgotten about that we forgot to put on our list.
Oh
But
yeah, you're right.
there is a baby Duraludon that's also metal, and it says this. I can't remember if it's 10 base and then 10 times, but for each damage counter on it, it does more. And if you're not getting hit by a fire Pokemon and you're able to resist, not that one. It's already
Is
out
it
in
the
there.
Stellar Crown one?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. What's the second attack? Thank you.
Raging Hammer.
80,
Yeah.
80 base. Yeah, yeah. Raging Hammer. So it just came out in Stellar Crown. It has 80 base damage, and then it says this attack does 10 more damage for each damage counter on this
Right.
Pokemon. Well, if you're 300 HP, you're not getting hit by
Hmm.
weakness with fire. Uh, Not a lot of things. Yes, Raging Bolt can hit any number out there, but they consistently hit 4. Ask them to hit 5 is a little bit of a different story.
Right.
So if you play with the little Relicanth, then you're able just to then one hit stuff. Now, again, you're sacrificing, you're not weak to something, but pretty cool nevertheless. I saw that in that specific list
Yeah, I
in
like
from
that.
a Japanese player, and I thought, okay, I can kind of see where they're going with
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
Any thoughts on one? Did you play the video games? Do you know what Archaladon
I
is?
know what
First
Archaladon
off,
is. I've not
okay,
finished the game, but no, I definitely know
okay.
because I'm a big Doral. Like I think one of my
Oh,
first
you're a big.
episodes, one of my big or I think one of my first episodes, the first competitive deck I ever played actually was Arctur Umbreon. So I really did love the Duraludon VMAX.
Oh, right.
Ironically, it's not Lugia. Lugia wasn't one of the first ones that I played because Duraludon VMAX was a hater against Lugia. Um,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, no, I think I really like this deck. I haven't been researching Japanese meta as much as I should have, um, but I do think I would enjoy, this becoming an archetype to at least meme around with, maybe be more viable. Um, I don't know. I think a stage 1 at 300 is pretty solid. It's got it kind of checks off a lot of things. It's attack, it's bulky, but you can work around that with the energy acceleration that it brings. 220 is a solid number. Imagine getting this off against a V Pokemon on your
Yeah.
turn 2. So that's pretty good. It accelerates to itself if you want to. It reduces the biggest threat here is something like a Radiant Charizard, but then you can turn off your weakness and you don't have to worry about it as much anymore. So yeah, I think it has a lot of pieces to be a decent card. So we'll see. Perhaps maybe it's one of those cards that after rotation happens, maybe it's a card that sticks around and we have enough damage modifiers to where that 220 can be increased as well. Or,
Oh,
maybe
yeah, for sure.
like every other deck, you put a Dusknoir in with it to boost the damage and stuff too. So you never know. I'm excited to see what happens with it. Again, I love the Pokemon. I love Duraludon. I think Archaladon's pretty cool looking. So yeah, pretty excited to
Yeah,
see what happens
kind of
with
the
it.
big bridge. Yeah, kind of the
Mhm.
big bridge Pokemon. And
Yeah, I don't
not
remember.
saying that be
I don't,
tier 1 or anything, but I
right.
think it's probably one of those where it's just kind of on the fringes,
Hmm.
where it can maybe find a consistent enough list to
Yeah.
at least play around with. And,
Yeah.
with each new set, people like to just try different things. And this is like easily one of the, I mean, besides trying different aspects with Drago, of course, this
Hmm.
is like my next like new deck to actually
Yeah.
test out with and play.
Yeah, and I think it's
So,
one of those reminders that I have to tell myself too. Sometimes I get so caught up in the meta, and then that's why I get so bored with a set or a current meta. But like, there are other cards that are out there you can kind of have fun with and build some decks. And maybe it's not the best deck, but if you already don't enjoy the meta anyways, why not just mess around, have fun with Pokemon?
right.
So
Which we have another deck, or excuse me, another card that I like in a certain deck archetype. Of course, they put it at 130
Uh-huh.
HP, so shocker, right? Because this card would be very good then. But it is another baby Crydon. We have very many Crydon out there. This is a fighting type Crydon. It is an ancient card, so again, one of those after temporal forces, or excuse me, Paradox Rift. We're still getting some ancient Pokemon and future Pokemon and future such lists, so it seems like that's not going to go away as
Yeah.
quickly as we might have thought. But it has a really good attack for double colorless called Intense Assault. So it does 30 base damage, and then it says if one of your other ancient Pokemon use an attack, this does 150 more damage, so 180 essentially,
I think
without any
it's
damage
important to say
modifier.
if it uses an attack on the last turn, just to reiterate
Yeah.
that part.
Oh, excuse
Yeah.
me. Yes.
Nope,
Yeah.
you're good.
So, with your ancient, obviously, you're trying to stream the Baby War and Moon.
Yep.
They were playing the Crydon that has like the
Uh-huh.
shred, and then it has another attack for like each
Right.
ancient
Yeah,
one.
it
But
was
like,
garbage. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't very good. I guess. Yeah, sure, it had the shred, but really, I mean, you're playing basic things. There's not a lot of things, and you don't play a lot of stuff that has. You can hit through Cornerstone, EX, because you're not playing a lot of stuff that has uh, abilities on it. I just hate that all of like Warren Moon was 140, and of course this one's 130.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is for sure like a staple in the ancient box.
Mm-hmm.
I just again if Briar's not super heavily played, like Ancient Box does kind of feel like a good sneaky play. It's just that Dust North stuff, you got to play probably quite a bit of Bravery Charms in that, and those get
Right.
milled off Pokestop, unfortunately.
Yep.
And then the second attack, I'll just say it because it does hit a for 2 fighting and 1 color, so it's Hammer in. That feels weird, but I guess it's not really an arm. But yeah, Hammer in. It does 110 base. So again, if they're weak to fighting, it's a clean 220. I really like this card. Uh,
Yeah. It looks cool
just
too. Koraidon looks
yeah,
pretty sweet. So
yeah, and especially with ancient box, a lot of you're just to hitting KO a lot of stuff.
right.
So just being able to get an early 180
Yeah.
attack off,
Pretty
if
awesome.
been something else attacked earlier, I thought it was worthy. Like I said, just kind of a lot of the EX aren't very good in this set is basically what I'll say. So,
Right.
but there's some other cards that are not rule blocks that do kind of have me excited. So,
Yeah.
wanted to kind of get a couple cards that I was the most excited about for early before turning it over to you. And we have some unique ones coming up.
Yeah, for sure. Another one we've got the Azumarill. It is a psychic Azumarill. I think we've seen this card in the past be dual type. We've seen it be a couple other things. But if you love Marill, it's a cute one. It is a stage 1. Its ability is called Twinkling Soap. Double Edge used by this Pokemon cost 1 psychic energy if you have any Terra Pokemon in play. Um, and I think that's important to note because the attack that Azumarill does is called Double Edge. And for 4 psychic energy, it does 230 damage. And then it says this Pokemon also does 50 damage to itself. So, again, one of those cards. And again, maybe, Aaron, you've probably been a little closer to the Japanese meta than I have this time around. I'm not sure if it's seeing a ton of play just yet, but it's one of those that, if you have any Terra Pokemon in play, which you're likely going to have a Terra Pokemon in play, you
Yeah.
can, for 1 psychic energy, do 230 damage, which is pretty sweet out of a stage 1 Pokemon. So a really cool card. Have you seen it in any Japanese lists? Is that what brought that up for
Not
you, or it's just
not as yeah, not as much as I was anticipating. I know, and it just seems like there's not as much Gardevoir out there right
right?
now.
Yeah,
But I have seen like this. You could even play like the reversal energy.
sure.
The
Yeah,
the downside, I was trying to remember if when it was first revealed, if they missed that if you have any Terra Pokemon in play,
maybe
and maybe
so.
this has been released for a really long time,
Yeah,
so I can't remember if it did say like if you, because I was at
I don't
first
remember
for some reason my brain was just thinking like
if
if
any
there is a
Terra.
Terra,
Yeah.
and I was like this card is broken, like you're
Mm-hmm.
one prize attack, but it's like wait, you have to have your own, and there's decent amount out there, but like Gardevoir is not a Terra Pokemon, right?
Yeah,
So
they
then
don't.
now
Gardy
you're
doesn't
trying to,
play any Terra Pokemon in there right
yeah. So
now.
then now like what you're gonna tell me you're gonna bench like a Dedenne EX type of
Right.
stuff? I just
Yeah.
anytime there is a basic rule book, or excuse me, a non rule box Pokemon that has a really big attack for kind of like a unique cost. It's always something of
You always
file
raise,
this away.
yeah, you always kind of
Yep.
raise that eyebrow just a bit,
Yeah, because we don't, future sets. This is going to
right?
be Hijk.
Oh yeah, this is H
Yeah, I
block.
think they're in H. Yeah, so they're in H box. So this is going to be around for a while.
Yeah,
It's going to be around for quite a while, I should say. And I just kind of was one of those where it's really cool attack. Not quite sure, but I am, like I said, I follow a lot of the Japanese meta, so
yeah,
follow the PCS podcast, and
yep,
I'll try to retweet when I see cool deck lists. But
yeah,
something to note, yeah, Zoomerl is a cool Pokemon as well too.
yep. Another one I do vividly remember us talking about
Oh yeah,
seeming pretty broken, and I think it has a
nice.
lot of potential. One, it has a pretty amazing illustration rare to it,
Yeah,
but it is Magneton. It's another stage one, 100 HP. So I think you again are in perfect Death range, but so is pretty much everything out there, which is why that card is kind of broken. But its ability is called Overvolt. Excuse me, Overvolt Discharge. Once during your turn, you may attach up to 3 basic energy cards from a discard pile to lightning Pokemon in any way you like. If you use this ability, the Pokemon is knocked out. So again, keeping up with the knockout of these electric type Pokemons like you see with this and the Voltorb. But I think the big catch there is you can attach 3 basic energy cards from your discard pile to your lightning Pokemon anyway. And I think where this comes into play, the obvious, is in Miraidon. And I think
hmm
Jesse, aka Mr. Miraidon himself, had posted a list recently called the Magnadon, and it plays this card in it. Plays a couple other ones we'll chat about here as well. We've got the Latios EX in the deck as well, which we'll chat about in just a few moments. But there is a 2 of in this deck, and then you see the re-entrance of Raichu back into the list too, which is pretty great because you can accelerate those energies to it a lot faster since we've lost the Flaffy that we used to play. So, and you're playing 2 of those. So, in theory, if you have both Magnetons set up, I don't believe, let me double check. I don't believe there's stipulation you can't use just one of these. So, if you have
Oh no, yeah,
if you have 2 Magnetons set up, you can put 6 energies on the Raichu. Um, and yeah, I mean that's pretty great. And then of course you add the Night Stretchers into the list to be able to bring them back into play. So maybe you may not get multiples of these off, but it's possible that you can. And if you do, then that's great. You can take some really big knockouts there. And of course, you've got your Miraidon and your Iron Hands, your typical attackers there. Which again, another I failed to mention, you could also power up a Miraidon with one of these Magnetons too and do 220 HP. So makes the deck a little bit better. Obviously, you still have the electric generators. Maybe you got a little risky and decided you wanted to spin a Pokestop and you mill some energies. Well, guess what? Magneton brings us back in. So, really cool card. I'm excited to try this out again. I haven't played a ton of Maridon since its heyday, but I don't know. I think if Jesse likes it and Jesse thinks it has potential, I trust Jesse. Jesse's a great player, good deck builder, knows the game really well. So there's a reason why
yeah.
Jesse's one of the best out there. So I'm
And
excited for this card.
particularly with that list, I
Mm-hmm.
like the for research
Yeah,
because I know you were playing for Arvin, but it didn't really draw you cards.
exactly.
And so specifically, you see the Radiant Greninja, right? And
Yep.
initially, that was played in the base set of Miraidon,
Yeah.
is because you had the file feed to bring the energy back.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this just being able to draw through the deck so much more rather than Arvin of gosh, after I Arvin this turn, if I don't top deck something else to get me more cards, like I'm just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
So I really like this, and Raichu. I know Raichu V is very popular among or not just Raichu V, but just Raichu in general is very popular among the PCS Discord.
Yeah.
So, and I do have a couple full arts, so I
Yep.
plan to. This is kind of one of the decks that I want to take up north.
Yeah.
Between GLC and standards, play this just because I haven't played Miraidon in quite some time either.
Yeah.
So excited to really cool ability.
Yeah.
And I famously misread it like 6 times when we first revealed it. But we were
Uh-huh.
looking at the art rare,
Right.
and
Yeah, it was
that is
tough.
a very busy card. So I was thinking this whole time it was only lightning energy, but it's just basic
Basic
energy.
energy.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is how it powers up a certain Pikachu EX that we've
That's
talked
right.
about previously. So
Yep.
The next card in the set that I feel like is probably actually the most meta relevant is Counter Gain. So we'll get off the Pokemon topic, but it is a tool card. It's a reprint. I really wish when I ordered a one of for a GLC tech and fighting, I wish I'd have just gotten a playset of the older stuff because, of course, those have gone up in price. And obviously, as with anything that gets reprinted, everyone buys out the old gold cards as soon
Yep.
as possible. But Counter Gain, we've reread it, but I'll read it one more time. This is for sure a get a playset of these. Should not cost, well, we say that. We thought Counter Catcher was going to be very low in price, and that's like $4. But if you have more price cards remaining than your opponent, the attacks of this card is attached to cost colorless less. So it's able to stream attackers more. You can attack with Blood Moon or some Luna earlier. And I believe, would that qualify for like anything? So, like, let's say Dragapult EX. Would this be able to also be attached and then just would be able to attack for a fighting or a psychic? Or does it specifically have to have a colorless in the attack cost? So I feel like it's specifically.
I think it's. I think it is specific colorless, so
Okay.
I don't think it would work for a Dragapult.
Or something
because
of
Dragapult requires two typed
a psychic
energies.
and of yeah. Please, someone correct us if I'm wrong. Like Counter Game was played when we weren't playing, so that's where I had asked, and I should have just asked this in the Discord because I'm sure a few probably that have played. Yeah,
I think it is. It says it costs one. It costs colorless less. So I do think that's the case.
A colorless would have to be within the attack cost,
right?
Which we've read some, like so. Teal Mask, Orcamon, sorry, nope. Raging Bolt, nope, sorry. I suppose they could attack with Burst Roar for free. That is a colorless. But if they're not doing that, they're probably losing. But yeah, I think this is a must. Have a 4. Get your 4 playset as as quick as you can because I think that it's going through. So I think that would cover most. I know Cerula GX we've talked about. The only other one that I feel like is super relevant, and then you can interject if anything, because I think everyone by now, if they don't know what Pikachu EX does, we've talked about it, and probably everyone else has talked about it this week too.
Yeah.
But Latias EX is, I think, a one of for sure, no matter what. I might have to spend a few extra bucks, but I think it is so worth it.
Yeah.
So Latias EX is a 210 psychic Pokemon and it has a cool ability where all basic, or it says your basic Pokemon in play have no retreat cost. So with Jesse's list that we were just looking at, notice that there's no more switch card, which I still think is a really good card to heal up a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that top right. What's next to the Bravery Charm?
Bravery Charm, Prime Catcher, Forest Seal Stone.
Prime Catcher?
Yeah.
Forest Seal Stone, duh. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Latias EX is kind of like the last big relevant card that I think we should make sure that you take a note and get a one of for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
To pull the art rare, or excuse me, the special art rare. Yeah, illustration rare. I will never get the card names correct anymore. I'm just too stuck in with what I was starting to learn, and then they changed it on me. I can never stay ahead. Although I think people say it's easier, but I think that's really relevant. There's some other cool ones.
Yeah, some cool stuff.
But head to justinbasil.com. He is a godsend for our community in general for Pokemon TCG, of always having translations out there and proxies. But yeah, look through that. That's probably where you can get your set, or excuse me, your prospective buy list for the cards coming out in just under 2 weeks.
Yep. And I know there's a lot of other creators out there too. I know the Shuffle Squad put out some buy, like, go do yourself a favor and just look up the buy list. There's lots of great stuff out there for sure.
Yeah. So moving on to our next segment, we talked about some stonks or just some forgotten cards. We won't spend tons of time on these, but we'll probably read off the set list name and just kind of remember of, hey, maybe double check your bulk boxes just to make sure that you still have these laying around. And my first one, I know Drew would also be a fan of this, is the Terra Pokemon, one of the first Terras that we got. Skeledirge EX, which is a very popular Pokemon. Skeledirge is a pretty cool starter. Fuecoco was. I wish I would have chose that over
Oh,
Quaxley,
you didn't
but
choose for
it is
Coco?
a stage 2.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, my son,
Mm,
when we were playing, that's when he was just over a year old,
yeah.
and we got all the three, and I was like, which one should Daddy
That's
choose? And
funny.
then he loved ducks at the time,
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
which before I knew what it was going to involve into, I
Yeah.
was really excited because I was thinking like a pirate deck, which I've said on the pod
No,
before. But
we love
Skeledirge EX, yeah,
we love Fuecoco in this
Skele
house.
yeah, Skeledirge EX is a stage 2 Pokemon. It is a Terra. It's Terra Steel of all things, which is pretty cool. And it has a crazy cool ability called Indecessary Song. Yeah,
And
Indecessary Song.
yeah,
Incendiary Song.
Incendiary song.
Words.
Because
Yeah, thank you.
Skeledirge likes to
Words.
sing. Yep, yep.
Yep, thank you. And once during your turn, you may discard a basic fire energy from your hand, and if you do, your opponent's and I believe it says your active Pokemon's attacks do 60 more damage, and it's not even a fire Pokemon that has to do it. It's just your whatever attacks that turn, you get to do plus 60. That is crazy
Right.
of an amount
Yep.
of a damage threshold, right?
Mm-hmm.
The attack is not very good. It's 160 for 2 fire. But again, if you have a couple of these in play, it doesn't really matter what you're attacking with. But it's one of those. They're probably like a buck 50 in TCG player. I went and got a playset last, or I think right around like Worlds, because I was just like, I have no idea what they're going to showcase, but this ability is so broken.
Yeah.
I have never put in enough time because it feels like Grand Tree would be really good, but then it's like, well, what basic fire attacker besides Radiant Charizard is really good right now?
Yeah.
But I just love that ability. Again, it's from Paradox Rift. There is no full arts or anything. It's just the basic EX, art. And like I said, the last time that when I bought mine, they were only around like a buck 50 or so. And the guy that I bought 4 from was probably like, why is someone buying 4 of these?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so one of those. I digress because I don't want to spend much more than a minute or two on each of these. But we'll kind of fly through our list to just maybe double check your binder to see if you got a couple of these lying around.
Yeah, some cool cards for sure. Moving along, I think you and I were both chatting about this pre-pod. We're big 150. We're big Gen 1, Gen 2 kids. So the next couple cards come from 151, which I think we could all say, there were some good cards we've seen from there that still see play, but a lot of them were mainly just they live in binders now of collectors, of people our age who wanted master sets. But there are some cards that could and maybe should, or at least have a playset of them that are pretty awesome. The first one of my favorite ones too, and I know this is a deck I kind of messed around with here and there on the ladder, is the Blastoise EX. It's again another tank, 330 HP. Its ability is really cool. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage from your attacks. But I think where it really shines and kind of plays into the Blastoise lore of the TCG is its attack for twin cannons for 2 water energy. It says discard up to 2 basic energy cards from your hand. This attack does 140 damage for each card you discarded in this way with a base, or I guess technically, but it's a base of 140. So depending on how many you discard, you can do quite a bit of damage and pretty much knock out anything you want to. So cool card. Maybe we see it, maybe we don't. But like we were chatting about earlier, there's a lot of energy acceleration from the discard. So there's ways to get your energy back in hand. Same thing with the Skeletors you were just mentioning as well.
Yeah.
Obviously you can discard something, but hey, I can get it right back with some of that. So that's another one. Aaron, you got another one. Let me go back to it.
Yeah, one of my favorite out of the original Legendary Birds. Articuno was always kind of like my favorite, but Zapdos is very, very close. As I've gotten older, kind of preferred Zapdos maybe a little bit more. But it's a basic Zapdos EX. I thought when I read this felt like such a cool card.
Yeah.
It has a cool ability where if this Pokemon has any lightning energy attached, it has no retreat cost. Always good to not have a retreat cost.
Yep.
And then it has even a cooler of an attack, I'll say, is multi-shot lightning. You can kind of see where this is going. It does require all 3 electric energy or lightning energy on it, and it does 120 active. And then it says it does 90 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon that has any damage counters on it.
Yeah.
if the Terra trait didn't have that stupid thing where it can't take damage from
Yeah.
an attack, of course you can put damage counters on it.
Mhm.
But this is one of those where I know with Miraidon you're trying to do like the one shot magic,
Yeah.
but so much stuff is trying to like boost its HP right now
Right.
that I just felt like this could be kind of a cool little cleanup card.
Yeah.
And again, we're saying these of kind of remember, don't throw these in, don't resell them back to your local play stores. Keep them there because they might, you never
They
know
might
what's
show
going to
back
be
up.
released.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this pairs really well with Magneton that he even talked about too, right? So you don't
Mhm.
have to sacrifice all your electric generators to it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this is another card we saw played in Miraidon early on, so maybe it finds a way
yeah,
back in. Who knows?
yep,
Another one from 151 that I really wish would have seen more play. Will it ever see play? I don't know, but it's a cool card nonetheless. The Aerodactyl, the stage 1. Its second attack is really what I'm most concerned about.
yeah.
Again, like you've called out, its HP kind of gets nerfed. It's 130, so you know where that one goes. But the second attack for double colorless, it's called Devolution Ray. Devolution Race. I don't know why I said that way. It does 100
yeah,
damage, but the nice thing is, it says if your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolved Pokemon, de-evolve it by putting the highest stage evolution card on it into your opponent's hand. So, um, I think we chatted about it before. This could be fun in like a little Lugia control deck, but would you really want to bring? Would you really want a summoning star for 2 Aerodactyls instead of your Archeops? Probably not. But in another dimension, in another world, maybe this is a cool card to play somehow. But
Yeah, I would
I don't
love to
know.
see the opponent's face and reaction when you do
I
this instead
know.
of getting Archeops.
Well, hey,
Really
maybe,
cool, like art
yeah,
for just like a basic.
I know.
I guess it was
It was
a
hollow. It was a hollow card.
yeah,
Hmm.
hollow rare for that set list, but like really
Yeah.
cool art. Free retreat,
Yep.
and again, it is a evolves from it is a stage one because it evolves, but
The
yeah,
old
just a
Ember.
really cool attack. And if we ever kind of go back to a really big like Charizard meta where that's 25%, I know this was seeing just teensy bits of
Yeah.
play out there. But
Hmm.
my next one, oh, excuse me, no,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have the
no.
next one.
We got one
Excuse me.
more of the from 151, the Arbok EX. Now, caveat here, we did see this played a decent amount. I think there were some alternative win conditions or people who just enjoyed playing different types of decks out there that ran this quite often on the ladder. I definitely ran into it a few times. It's a dark Pokemon, stage 1 to 270 HP. First attack, bind down. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. And then the other one, Menacing Fangs for 3 dark energy. Your opponent discards 2 cards from their hand and does 150 damage too. So I can't remember what this was played with, but it was kind of like a pseudo control deck, annoying deck, like making you discard cards from your hand was kind of annoying. But yeah, another one of those cards. I can't remember what it was played with that really made the deck. It was like an
Erie,
was an
yeah.
item lock card too. It was like an item lock minute, yeah, something like that.
Well, I think trying to play like Erie and here specifically because it's not really doing a bunch of damage to take knockouts. It kind of keeps Pheasantipity at bay for a little bit as well too.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always like Iona them to lower and then discard that as what they're
Yeah.
going through. And isn't there's a tool?
I can't find it. I was gonna look it up.
I feel like there's a tool, and the tool might have rotated, but I feel like there's a tool where it talks about like discard um, a card from your opponent's hand or something of that nature.
Yeah,
But
so there was something.
yeah,
I wish I could go back
something
and
there.
find the lists from it, but I'm sure it was
Yeah,
like a other deck on Limitless, so it might be hard to find.
yeah, and it probably hasn't seen play since literally 151, and it
Hmm.
actually came out. It has Dark Patch that's still in
Yeah,
play, so you're
pretty
able to
cool.
kind of get the energy
Hmm.
accelerated. Just one of those where you never know. Discarding 2 random cards from your opponent's hand is pretty good, especially if you're able to like reset
Yeah,
their hand size down low.
exactly.
My next two are ones that are probably they're probably relevant in GLC right now, but I also think like just really cool abilities that I think as some of the stuff from the Sword and Shield era that are like kind of support Pokemon rotate out next spring, that these could find their way in. So the first one is a Brambleghast from Temporal Forces. It is a stage 1, has 100 HP, has a really cool ability where each prize card that your opponent has taken,
Yeah.
this gets plus 50 HP. And I know in some GLC that I've seen from various streams out there, like this could have 300 HP by the end of the game, or excuse me, 250 or 300. And then for it has the attack of 1 grass and 2 colorless, it does 80 times. And it says for each energy attached to this Pokemon, flip a coin and it does 80 more. So I know Mahone on his most recent GLC conquest, I think he had to flip like, because he had the Venusaur that GLC grass plays to enter each grass energy costs 2. And so I think he was able to get like 5 energy on it, so he was rolling 10 dice at the end. Really cool. I know there's another Brambleghast that does an attack that makes your opponent's active Pokemon cost double colorless more for their attack costs, but there's so much ways to cheese in energy to your Pokemon. Something like that would ruin Regidrago because now you're trying to have to attack with 5 on it. But one of those Brambleghast, not the most cool Pokemon that they've ever released. It's a tumbleweed.
It's a tumbleweed,
but
a dead tumbleweed.
it's just a dead tumbleweed. But the ability, I thought it was just really cool. Like plus 50, like man, that's wild late game. And
I remember one time Graham wanted to build this deck because a kid at League in the juniors division played it. He built the Brambleghast deck, and Graham was on Charizard, and Graham got absolutely obliterated by this kid.
I bet. Deck, yeah, so, that makes sense.
And so then Graham made me build this deck for him. I was like, no.
I swear the Fortress EX, which could have made its way on this list, but like right now, just giving up 2 price cards just feels
bad.
Icky. Yeah, it feels really icky with a very, very quick meta where a lot of games are finishing by in turn 4. So the next card I feel like is like our Bibarel once Bibarel rotates, and Bibarel's not even really played anymore because it has 120 HP, unfortunately. But it is the Revavroom from Scarlet Violet Vase set. If this has a shiny version that came out in the Paldean Fates, where it's a golden one, and I love the black and gold color scheme, of course, being an Iowa boy. But it has the ability called Rumbling Engine, and during your turn, you can discard an energy from your hand and draw up to 6. And it says, it's not stipulated where you can only use 1 Rumbling Engine, so you can draw up to 6, play Ultra Ball, pare it down, do it again. And obviously, we know things like stuff in the discard. I've always thought like this was such a good card. It has 140 HP, something to take a note of, Michael. But it does have 2 energy for a retreat cost, and we don't have Air Balloon. And obviously, your Rescue Stretcher kind of hurts. I was trying to remember if I saw this in the Arch Aladon list. That's where my brain went, was like, oh, I can finally play Revavroom with Arch Aladon. Because you want energy in the discard pile. You need a draw engine, and then you accelerate it back. That's where I went. The Japanese list did not play that, but I know that's where I'm going. It's a cool card. It was part of the build and battle kits as well too, so you can kind of get the cool stamp. But the shiny one is probably only a couple bucks, maybe $3 or $4. But such a cool ability. I feel like this could see more action once rotation hits.
Yeah, I think there was some old Gdańsk lists that played it too as energy to draw cards. To draw cards back in the day. This was in some of those. I could see this in a Miraidon list, perhaps. I don't know, maybe not Miraidon, but again with the
it's any basic energy. Yeah. Wait, actually, it just says you discard in energy, so you can discard special energy too if you, for whatever reason, want to. But yeah, it's not even stipulated to basic.
Yeah,
but
so pretty cool card.
Yeah.
Last one on this list too, before we kind of wrap up with a couple last remarks, is the Sizor, however you want to say it, from Obsidian Flames. I know, Aaron, this is one of your favorite Pokemon. I think it's a fantastic Pokemon. I think the HP is also quite nice. It's 140. It's a stage 1 because, of course, it evolves from Scyther, one of my favorite all-time Pokemon. Second attack's okay. It's 2 metal, steel energy. First does cut, which is pretty typical for a Scyther Scizor combo, 70. But what you're really using this card for is for its broken first attack. For 1 metal energy, its attack named Punishing Scissors does 10 damage, but it does 50 more damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play that has an ability. What do we have a lot of in the meta, Aaron?
A lot of ability besides Raging Bolt decks, basically, is the only thing, because Raging Bolt doesn't have an ability, but guess what? They play Squawk, Ninja, and the TMS Gogurpon. So usually there's always 3 to 4 abilities in play.
and that's what makes
And then the
Pokemon
other
so
decks
great.
is like 5 abilities in
Right,
play as
right,
well too.
exactly. So like this card, it's I mean for one energy, it's a very low ceiling to one to attack with, two to really make like it's not a hard card to get in play. I remember when Goldango was around and this card was out, like I definitely threw this into my Goldango list as a good single prize attacker because back in the day, like this was really before Palkia had made its way back into Goldango. So like we were all just like what can we do to make Goldango not just a two prize deck? Well, let's put a Scizor in there, um, and it was quite nice. And then the Scyther that stage one was also a nice pivot because he played the one from 151, I think that's free retreat.
Free retreat.
Um,
Yeah, I'm
and
glad
so
that you mentioned that because I
yeah,
was literally going to bring up. You want to pair this? There's like 7 Scythers right now
right,
in rotation, but the one for sure you want to play is from 151 that we talked about because it has the
exactly.
free retreat.
This one right here. Yep,
Is yeah, yep, only 70 HP, but again, you're playing it because you want that
that free
free
retreat
retreat
was nice.
cost.
So this is a great card to start with. It was a great card to pivot into, and then you could slam
Yep,
down the Scizor and do some good damage with it. And I think also, let's just be real. It's honestly one of my favorites. I think it's this card right here. One of my favorite alt arts in the Scarlet and Violet era is this card here. I absolutely love it.
I need to order one of those. I did not buy. I think I only bought like 3 booster bundles of City and
Yeah.
Flames because I was like, I am not, yeah,
Yep.
gonna
You got to get you one.
try yeah. So I need to buy one of those for myself because
Yeah.
Scyther and Scizor are some of my favorite Pokemon,
Yeah.
and I know they're quite popular amongst the community
Yeah.
as well
Such a
too.
cool. God, I love this card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Definitely.
a really. It's a very like the Kindred EX that was again complete tangent, but you aren't listening to us if you don't appreciate Michael's and my tangents ideas. But
I know
it's a
that
very
one.
like Japanese looking card, and then the Kindred EX, the special
I think
one that
it's
in the
not.
box set
Which one is it?
that
Kingdra.
yeah, it's gonna be probably like the highest number because it came out with the same thing with like the Greninja EX in the
Yeah,
box
yeah,
for.
yeah. I know, but I'm not seeing.
So, is there anything for Shrouded Fable that's showing?
I'm not seeing an S. It should be S. It should be promo. So
Yeah,
it's not this
I know
one.
you did the first two. That's weird,
Was it an
but
EX? Yeah, it was
yeah,
definitely
it's an
EX.
EX for sure from Shrouded Fable, but it would be under a
Oh, here we
promo.
go. Here
That's
it is.
kind of
Found
weird.
it. Got it.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, so like this screams like one of the coolest like art pieces of art
Absolutely.
on a card, and I think
And it's
as
textured, which is
Pokemon.
cool too.
Yeah, and like I have it and it's there. I don't this one would be like something that I'd get slabbed just because Kingdra is probably kind of within the top 10 of my favorite Pokemon. But like this and then the Scizor that you were just showing on the
Yeah,
screen just scream like such cool like Far Eastern artwork type of
absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah,
And like I said, and Pokemon a lot more of the community is collector based. Probably 80ish% is they literally have cards because they collect them, and then we're stuck with us people like us. We're 20% of the actual like play with the cards in, as they're intended to be
yeah,
going through. So yeah, that rounds up our kind of like, hey, remember this card maybe type of stuff. So hopefully, one, if you didn't know those cards existed, maybe just go buy because you can probably get them pretty low on there. The next thing that is near and dear to my heart is the Iowa League Cup. Now, our second child will be, our due date right now is right around the 26th, so who knows when the baby comes. But I played in this last year where I traveled down. It's all around the Des Moines area and the greater like suburbs. So like Pella is probably maybe 45 minutes southeast of the Des Moines area. But Nick Robinson put this out, who helps kind of run it. But they pair up with all these local shops within the Des Moines area, which is our capital in the state, and they literally call it like the Iowa League Cup Marathon. And these prices should jump out at you. So for
I've
those that are
never
just
seen a
listening,
cup that's $10.
yeah, it's so
That's
cool.
crazy.
And I looked, and it looks like you have to pay. That's kind of a bummer. But anyway, I'll get on that. So last year when I went there, the very first match I played against was against Piper Lapine, and I was playing Sablezard, bad medical, but should have just probably played Giratina V-Star because that was very popular at the time. And then, of course, I played that in a challenge, did far better with that instead of my Sablezard. But she was playing the Lost Box with the Iron Hands. So it was really cool because afterwards I was like, hey, where did I go wrong? And she's like, yeah, you should take it up my Cramorant instead of counter catching up the Comfey because she only had one Comfey in play. But I digress. So it starts on the 26th, 5 straight days, 5 straight League Cups during, usually get going around, noon or a little bit earlier if it's on a Saturday or Sunday because then the shop, has more staff available. But usually most of the cups that I'm looking at here, $10, $15, $15, $10, and then the highest $30. But that's a Saturday, so probably going to get a wider spread from there. The pricing has always been good. There's always top cut. And then the coolest part is if you don't make top cut, they then have a challenge later in the day. And most of them, that's where I said is a little bit down, but I get it. They're here to make money as well too. But they had free challenges last year is the one that I played in. And the world champ was there. Vance Kelly was there. Grant Shen was there. Andrew Hedrick was there. And I think he won like 2 or 3 of them last year. We had players fly in from California to play. It was wild. And when you look around the room and you see 40 players, but like 20 of them, as I told you before the pod, I was like, these 20 people are all like on the circuit that I see on the stream every other weekend in the NA regionals. Really cool opportunity. Yeah. I wish, yes, if we didn't have a baby, I would more than welcome try to get people down here as much as possible, kind of have a PCS reunion to play because you're just slinging cards for all day, well into the late hours because obviously sometimes the challenges don't kick off till later. It looks like they actually moved up the challenge.
Yeah, I'm curious to know when they would actually start because this is all registration times too. So
yeah, in my experience last year, we didn't start the challenge, and I think it was I played 4 rounds. Yeah, I think I played 4 rounds in the challenge because there's no top cut in the challenge. It's just you play Swiss and then determine, and you get play mats or whatever because it is a win obviously because it's an official event. But normally like we weren't getting to play till close to 7. So I know like Friday night by the time I got back to my hotel it was 10:30, 11, and then I went to grab some food and then the next day played and then it was Saturday and I was like I can be home by 8:30 and I played so much Pokemon in just that day and a half that I was down there. But unique thing, wanted to showcase that, so hopefully cool. Nick C. Robinson, I think I retweeted it on the PCS Twitter as well too, but I'll try to retweet it again as I get closer. So anyone within the Iowa area or just trying to maybe you have some extra vacation or away from work and you want to get a whole bunch of play in, and I probably you'll play against someone really, really darn good is what I wanted to. So
yeah, pretty neat.
And with that, I know. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
No, I was just gonna say I think it's pretty cool that Iowa does this. Yeah, I was quite a ways away from me. I don't think I'm gonna be traveling up the day after the holiday, but
yeah,
pretty cool though.
It's unique. Yeah, a lot of the college players that are on the circuit, right? They don't have school, so then they're able to play 5 straight days. And like I said, the ratio of top quality players versus just average local Iowa player was 1-to-1. It felt like when I was just looking around last year in the room. And I wanted to go through, Michael. We've spent a lot of time regional in Gdańsk in Poland. We will recap that. Do you still think it's kind of a Lugia, Raging Bolt, Regidrago kind of trifecta? Do you see any other decks maybe possibly sneaking in there?
Yeah, I think the large majority of the meta will be those 3 decks. I mean, I think we've seen the Justin Basil thing come out. Lugia has been at the top of the meta for several weeks in a row now, which I'm happy to see. But it's easily beatable as well when it doesn't work. It beats itself, I should say. So I still think, yes, I do think we'll see some decks kind of make another run or deeper run. One of my favorites of the not so like top 3, top 4 decks is the Gardevoir Banette, which I never thought that I would say because I'm not a big Gardy fan, but this doesn't feel like your typical Gardevoir where you're just balloon blasting or whatever it's called. It doesn't feel like you're just well, I don't know because a lot of the newer lists are including Screamtail, but you're not using Drifloon to blow stuff up as much. But these Gardevoir Banette decks are more item lock driven. So I think it could feel like a pretty solid play, and I know it's something I think we talked about. Azul played it recently and came second place in a late night with it. Let me pull it up really fast too. Uh, Either way, I can pull it up while we're talking. I think it has a good chance. I don't think it's going to see as much play. I think it's pretty low on the list of decks being played, but again, it's a neat deck. Yeah, here we go. Here's Azul's list. Pull
Yeah,
it up.
did he play the one of Salvatore at all? He did not.
No,
He
he played the Kofu.
played Kofu,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome.
Yeah,
By the way, but I know the player Matthias, excuse me. Matthias is from Poland,
yeah,
and he kind of probably has played this deck the longest over like the last year. And I know he plays like the one of Salvatore, which is a card that we did not talk about, like Stonks, but just you're able to evolve on your first turn if your evolution Pokemon doesn't have an ability, which a lot of evolution Pokemon do, but it is really cool nevertheless. But I'm excited with you. That would be kind of one where I would love. It did get on stream, and Matthias did play it very good, and he scooped like instantly that a Charizard EX came into play. But I did like Azul's list of no trekking shoes and a little bit more
yeah,
research. You do, as with kind of any Gardevoir deck, you really chew through your deck very quickly, at
yeah.
least when the trekking shoes build. But
Mm-hmm.
really cool deck. I still feel like Lugia, Regidrago are kind of still the cream of the crop, but I guess we'll see. It's kind of one of those things where like Raging Bolt does really well and then kind of has a whiff and then it does really well again. So maybe it's a Raging Bolt meta or conversion, and then like Dragapult. We saw that failed horribly at Louisville
Yeah.
and then over in Dortmund as well too. So I'm curious to see if there's any sort of bounce back, but it seems like the meta is kind of just is what it is
Yeah.
right now. So I'm excited to watch anytime there's a new one. And then obviously we'll touch on LAIC because that's coming up
Yeah.
very, very fast. So
Crazy.
wanted to go through. Thank you everyone that's been listening for as long as we've gone through. Michael and I did our normal find some tangents and able to get excited about cards that maybe aren't going to be the most relevant, but we feel like we've gone through. So for the PCS, we did have our top four. You mentioned that you snuck in there. I did post, and we covered last week of the prizing, so I'll make sure everyone gets their extra code cards as well too. So that's actively getting played. We have obviously Michael snuck in there. Darius is going for back to back. He won last time, and he
I'm
pulled
actually paired
the
against DK, so yeah.
yeah, yep. So you face the former champion from season
Mm-hmm.
3, and then we have Jeremy is playing fast or Andy as well too.
Yeah.
So
Which are the two that
yeah,
I conceded to.
yeah. So they snuck in there. So I'm excited to
You're
see how that
welcome.
shakes out. Yeah, yeah. There you go. You're welcome, everyone. So we did have a lot of 2-2, just like what we did the previous time as well too. So just kind of how things happen again. I would love to have had it go in like an extra week or two. It's just Surging Sparks was right around the corner. So by
Yeah.
the time we finish next week with the championship match, then obviously we'll have Surging Sparks cards out. So
Dang, I
which
just
pairs me in.
realized my opponent's win percentage is the bat man. That's why it snuck in there. I bubbled in because my opponent's
Yeah,
win percentage was
was so
62.5%.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very good compared to
Yeah. Thanks
like
everybody.
mine, as you can see.
Yeah,
So
right.
next
41%.
yeah, so next tournament
That's
that we're
awesome.
going to have, so our season 5 challenge, we PECS are bringing back the team challenge. So we'll get obviously registrations going. I'll get a whole bunch of the normal like here's all the rules, but it will be cool. You'll get randomly paired with a teammate for this session. So Michael and I might get paired together, or myself and Carlos, etc., and you will figure out what deck that you guys want to play together. And so it should give you a good opportunity to one, learn someone a little bit more that maybe you don't chat up with in the Discord, but I feel like we have a pretty lively Discord kind of at all times. But you're able to kind of craft a deck together and then play. So a lot more of that coming down. I want to save the rest of that. We'll kind of announce that as I get registrations live. Then of course I'll tweet it and put it in the Discord as well too. Our PCS challenges that we do have good prizing. Speaking of DK winning last time, he got a Stellar Crown ETB, and he pulled the special art rare of the Tropicos and a Grand Tree to boot as well too.
Yeah.
So it was a cracked ETB for him. There's some other big hits as well too, but our Patreon, our tournaments are exclusive to our Patreon members, but we have even just a $3 per month entry fee to go through. That gets deck boxes, ETB. I was just able to find some cheap Shredded Fable ETBs online. So hint, hint, that might be some future pricing, along with, Katana sleeves or Dragon Shield sleeves, kind of whatever I have next to my desk. That I feel like just I won't get to play as much here in the near future. So might as well get it to people that will play. So we thank our Patreon members, of course. You know who you are, for always helping support the show. Your donations always help with future production equipment and or pricing for our tournaments. If you want more of ourselves, you can go over to Twitter or X. We'll see if the blue sky ever kind of goes through.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're just going to kind of give that a couple weeks to kind of see what happens. But PCS_pod is where you can find us. Twitch, PCS Podcasts, patreon.com/PCS Podcasts, and then youtube.com at the PCS Podcast.
Yep. And as always, you can find me at mradioptcg, yapping away whenever I feel like it.
We appreciate everyone listening, and we'll talk to you all next week.
See ya.